Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we'll be taking a look at the GFS here and multiple other models as we take a look into the future, and by the end of this week we could see multiple systems start to form. If we take a look at the GFS, you can see you have a storm starting to form by the south in Texas, Kansas area. If we continue here, you can see the storm starts to interact with the cold air and starts to blossom with the cold and snowy conditions in Michigan. Notice how the other day we used to see more heavier snow on the backside more than just in Michigan. But the GFS and other models have backed off this idea and just wants to have a heavy snow event for northern and central Michigan. You can see the storm is just north of Indiana here in southeastern Michigan, and you have heavy snow in northern and central Michigan. If we continue here, the GFS shows a storm getting out of Michigan by at least Sunday, and then you have heavy snow in northern parts of Maine. That stays snow in some parts of the area, most northern parts of the area of Maine, but the rest of Maine goes over to rain. If we take a look here further out, you can see in the south you have a low pressure starting to form, but that quickly goes out to sea. But you could have some snow in the mountains of Tennessee, North Carolina border, but nothing too serious. If we continue, you can see the GFS wants to bring a storm to the northeast. Could it be a nor'easter, like the GFS is showing here, or could it be an inland runner, like a couple other models have been showing? As of right now, the GFS wants to take the storm out to sea, strengthen, and actually, let's get a close-up here on this. The GFS wants to strengthen the storm, like it's an agreement with the European right now. If we take a close-up here, you can see the storm is just south of Maryland, and if the next slide, it is off the coast of Maryland, making its way towards Delaware. Notice how the coast starts out as rain, and if you go further up to Connecticut, it stays as snow. Next slide here. Sorry about that. Next slide, it changes over from rain to snow on parts of the coast, and heavy snow from Boston all the way down to the coast. This pink is really heavy snow from Pennsylvania, Maryland even, up into northern parts of New York, northern parts of Connecticut, and just about south of Boston. The next slide, as the storm makes its way eastward, on the backside it really starts to intensify just east of New York on Long Island, and again just south of Boston, if not right on it. Next slide, the storm starts to move out. It's just southeast of Nantucket, and then it quickly moves out. If you take a look at total snowfall here, we'll go and look at the Michigan snow totals first. You can see that the GFS wants to give Michigan, some parts of Michigan, up to a foot of snow here in the central northern parts of Michigan. Iowa could see up to a couple inches in the central and northeastern part of Iowa. And then Wisconsin, it has backed off the totals from a foot to 6 inches, but this is still a decent sized snowstorm for you. Chicago could see some mixing, but if you go just to the north, you could get into the 4-inch range. But if you go back into Michigan, you could see that is pretty heavy snowfall. If we take a look back into the northeast here, and take a look, you can see the GFS wants to produce a substantial amount of snowfall here. You can see just south of Boston where that heavy banding was is 20 inches of snow, what it puts out here. In central Connecticut puts up 24 inches, and if you go down to Long Island where that heavy banding also was, New York and Nassau County could see 19 inches. This is just one run of the model, GFS, and take in mind that this is 6 days out almost. If we take a look at the European here, go back to the home models, you can see that the European, the high-res European that you could use on pivotal weather, shows practically the same thing when it comes to this. A little more heavier snowfall than the GFS, wants to keep that heavy snowfall up in Wisconsin and the border of Illinois, but always keeps that heavy snow in central northern Michigan. As the day goes on, once this storm moves out and keeps snowing in northern Maine, it has a low pressure system form in the south and give northern Texas some snow. That storm quickly dissipates and heads for the coast, and then as we continue, you can see it heads for the coast, but it gives some mountain snow for North Carolina, Tennessee border. If we continue here, you can see it wants to form the system go right from the panhandle of Florida just to the border of Virginia. It has almost the same look as the GFS, heavy snow for the coast and New England. And if we get a close up here, we'll take a first look up in the Midwest, like we did with the GFS. You can see with the snow totals. Hold on 1 second here. The total snow accumulation shows, at least for the Euro, you have parts of 15 inches in central northern Michigan, and it does get that foot range into the southeastern Wisconsin and northeastern Illinois. It gets that 6-inch range from the eastern parts of Iowa and then stretches it all the way back into central Michigan. So at least on the European, it still wants to show that it has heavy snow for that parts of the area. If we take a look at the northeast here, the European wants to drop almost the same amount of snowfall as the GFS. You have a foot across Long Island again, but instead of that 20-inch in central Connecticut, it's only 18, and there's a chance for 20 inches at least in the Massachusetts area. So the foot-inch range is anywhere in this range, from Long Island all the way up into Massachusetts here. So this has to be look out for the next system here. If you take a look at the National Weather Service total snowfalls for this system, you can see it agrees with the GFS here. Not that much snowfall for Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin, but it still has a range from 3 to 5 pockets of 5 to 8 inches in that area. But the big areas, again, is in central and northern Michigan. Pockets of 5 to 8 range from there, and pockets of 6 to 8 in that area. Now, if we want a coastal system, we need a negative NAL. And if you take a look at the Climate Prediction Center, you can see the North Atlantic Oscillation wants to be negative. Now, the question is, how negative will it be? Will it be too negative that it pushes the storm offshore and the coast doesn't see any snow? Or will it be just right and it'll have a good amount of snow for the coast? Or it won't be negative at all and it will go positive right when the system happens? As of right now, the models want to keep it just enough negative so that it keeps the storm on the coast. That's what the GFS did this run. Again, this storm is very far out, 6 days to be exact, or 5, and anything could change. Like last run of the European, it showed the storm disappeared, but now it's back here. I hope everybody has a great day. Remember, have a great